Paul, we normally have a statement here in the Center for Responsible Business and Leadership, which goes like this: without profit, of course, nobody will ever be concerned with planet and people. But what is becoming more and more clear is if you are not dealing with planet and people, you will not make profit. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes total sense, and I'll give you my reflections on that. But first, Felipe and Nuno, thanks for inviting me, obviously here, and for your Center of Responsible Business and Leadership. And I love your mission, by the way, to contribute to society and driving responsible business by creating responsible leaders. Nothing can be more noble. As I said in Warsaw, goal number 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is education, I'm absolutely passionate about. As a member of the board of Prime Principles for Responsible Management Education, the chairman of the Said Business School at Oxford, on the advisory boards of ESA and INSEAD that you're well familiar with. So I actually believe, and I've said it many times, that this world is short of leaders and trees. And I have a great respect for what you're doing in creating the leaders that the world needs today and tomorrow. And I want to thank you for that. So coming to your question, which is, it's good to understand first and foremost, perhaps, that we're at a precarious moment in the planetary histories. We've crossed quite a lot of planetary boundaries, the safety which is needed for our own existence. Examples of that would be the loss of biodiversity or climate change, but also in air and water pollution and many other areas. And in fact, the world is rapidly losing its resilience of our life support systems to enable what many people would consider acceptable boundaries for safe living. And we've little space left to actually maneuver ourselves to a just landing, up to the point that some people believe that extinction of our species, the human being, is a very real possibility. So we only have one chance to get this right, and that requires restoring trust and cooperation, not only in our institutions, our governments, but also in the way we operate and work together. There's no question in my mind that incremental change is not good enough anymore. Many of the challenges that we're now facing are a result, as you rightfully alluded to, of the system that we have created. I call it a linear, extractive production model, focused on output instead of impact. And in the past, Mother Nature was able to compensate for our shortfalls. But with the enormous pressure on the world's resources, 8 billion people, the enormous wealth that we have created, it's really just has become impossible for Mother Nature to compensate. And it is fair to say that our economic system until now was probably successful in lifting a lot of people out of poverty. And for the last few decades, we've lifted never so many people out of poverty. But with that population growth, with that changing consumer pattern, the demand on the world's scarce resources is just too much. Mother Nature has gone beyond its means to compensate, and it's not able to do this anymore. So we're running out, and it is very clear to me and to many others that if we continue on this process, we would really not have an opportunity for business to succeed. I've said many times that business cannot succeed in societies that fail. We've cut down half the world's forests in our lifetime. We've lost 70% of the world's species. Another 1 million are being extinct. World Overshoot Day this year is August 2nd, which is the day that we use up more resources than the world can replenish. So obviously in all of this, climate change is our biggest challenge. We've now had, if you look at the last 40 years, extreme weather events have increased 15-fold. We now have over 1,500 extreme weather effects a year that cost us quite a lot of money, and the numbers are going up. We've seen July again, the hottest day in July 4th, July 5th, July 6th, hotter than we've seen in the 125,000 years that we can trace. So it's coming to an end. And unfortunately, the price that we're paying for that is high and increasingly higher. You just have to look at COVID, which is a direct result of the destruction of biodiversity. It has cost Europe and the US an estimated $17 trillion, according to the IMF, infinitely more than what it would have cost us to protect biodiversity or restore biodiversity in the first place. We see the same in our broken food system. Deforestation, food waste, obesity, keeping people hungry. The cost to our economic systems are far more than if we would address these issues. And because the cost of not acting right now has become significantly higher than the cost of acting, it also means that it has become an enormous business opportunity to not only look at the myopic focus of financial return, but increasingly also look at environmental capital, social capital, human capital, and optimize that as well. Not only for a moral reason, but for an enormous financial reason. And increasingly, we can show that companies that do that optimize that model for multiple stakeholders, including future generations, including Mother Earth, are increasingly showing better returns. ESG funds are showing better returns. And we've certainly shown that with Unilever. Over the 10 years that I had the honor to run that company, we had a 300% return. So indeed, it is now absolutely a must for businesses to take a broader approach and become citizens of planet Earth and also take into account not only financial capital, but also these other forms of capital that we talked about.